أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم وأوصياء نبي الله. So tonight we are gonna finish this discussion. So this is part 2 of last week's. It's a continuation on this great line from Ziyarat Jamia where we say to the Imams of Ahlul Bayt that you are the awsiyae nabiyillah. So this we explained last week, so I won't do any repetition, but just very, very quickly so that we get the context. Awsiya is the plural of wasi, and wasi is someone who is the successor of another person, someone who receives a wasiya, a will, a testament, an instruction. So here we can say that they are the successors of Rasulullah, they are the wasis of Rasulullah, they are bound by the instructions of Rasulullah, and they have this position given to them by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but communicated by the Holy Prophet. So the first thing to discuss today is what is the scope of successorship? What is the scope of this wasiyah of the Aimma alayhimus salam? So the principle, when we discuss successorship or we discuss wasiyah, the principle of this is that you have to put aside all your own personal whims and desires, and you have to carry out the instructions exactly as the person intended when he gave you the wasiyah. Let's say someone who is dying or is deceased, he leaves a will. This will says, I want you to give X, Y, Z to A, B, and C. I've left 3 things and I want you to give these 3 things to these 3 different people. You don't have the right really to say, no, I don't think I should give this one to that one. Let me change it around. I'll give this one to another person and this one to another person, and this last one, I'll keep it for myself. Even if you sincerely believe that that is the best thing to do, you have no right. So the person who has received the wasiyah is not allowed to use their own whims and desires. They're not allowed to bring in their own personal feelings in this. And we said last week that when the Holy Prophet gives the wasiyah to Amirul Mu'mineen, for example, and the other Imams, they are now bound not by their own whims and desires, they are bound by whatever they have received from Rasulullah. So therefore, we want to make 3 points here. Number 1, the successor will undertake the duties of a prophet. Whenever a prophet passes wasiyah and he has a wasi, he leaves behind someone in his place after him, and he makes it clear that this is my wasi. That wasi has to undertake the duties that were left with him. What were these duties of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? What were our beloved Prophet's duties? For example, teaching and explaining the revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So therefore, they have to have the revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They have to receive the revelation of Allah. The way the Holy Prophet used to receive the messages from God and give them to the people and explain them, the Imams will do the same thing, because this was the role of the Prophet and he's left the same role for the Imams. They have to explain the details of the Book of Allah. There are no new verses of the Quran being revealed once the Holy Prophet leaves this world. The revelation of the Quran finishes. There is no new verse. We don't have a different Quran. The Shias do not have a different Quran. The Shias do not have any verses of the Quran which is not in the Quran that everyone has. We don't have any such thing. This is an accusation against the Shias. We don't have any such thing. Imam al-Islam never received any verses of the Quran from Allah as a new revelation. Rather, what he will do and what the Imams will do is that they will teach the book of God. Many things in the Prophet's time were not there that he was able to explain. He was able to go into the details. Many things came afterwards, many new circumstances, many new situations, many new rulings were required. This is the role of the Imam, to go to the book of Allah, to go to the Sunnah of Rasulullah, and give the people their instructions of what to do. They are bound by also the role of the Prophet, which was to guide people. They have to guide people the way he guided people. They have to purify people. They have to teach people how to become good people, how to become closer to God, how to be pure in their souls, pure in their ruh, in their spirit. They have to implement the Islamic laws and rulings, etc. So all of those things that the Holy Prophet was doing, and we've just mentioned a few, the Imams must do as well. This is the role of a wasi, of the Holy Prophet. Secondly, if they have to do all of those things that the Prophet was doing, then obviously they have to have the knowledge of these things. How can they do it if they don't have the knowledge? Especially, we have to say that they have to have the knowledge of the Book of Allah, Sunnah of the Holy Prophet. The Imam has to know these things more than anyone else. He has to be more qualified than anyone else, because if he's not more qualified, or if someone else has more knowledge than him, then they should be the wasi. The Imam has to be the most knowledgeable. The way the Prophet was the most knowledgeable. You see, everything we say about the Prophet, we'll have to say about Amirul Mu'mineen and the Imams, except annahu la nabiyya ba'di, in the words of the Holy Prophet himself. There is no more prophet after me. You're not prophets. I am Khatamul Anbiya. I'm the seal of the prophets. There's no more prophets after me. You are my awsiya. You are the Imams of this ummah. So he must be qualified more than everyone else of his time, the way the Holy Prophet was more qualified. His authority will apply to everyone. Why? Because the Holy Prophet was a prophet for the whole world until the end of time. So the Imams also have the authority over every single person until the end of time. Thirdly, some of the decisions, we will have to say to our other Muslim brothers and sisters, some of the decisions of the Caliphs that they regard as the Caliphs of the Prophet, the successors of the Prophet, they put Imamate al-Islam as number 4. We don't recognize the first 3 at all. We say Imamate al-Islam, whether you put him 1 or 4, for us, he's the Imam. As soon as the Holy Prophet leaves this world, Imamate al-Islam becomes the Imam. Whether people recognize him or don't recognize him, that's irrelevant for us. But the Caliphs themselves, well, some of their decisions really makes you think and wonder that what kind of people were they? For example, the second Caliph, he made a number of the things that the Holy Prophet had left for the Ummah in the religion of Islam, he made them haram. The muta, for example, the muta of hajj, he made haram. The muta of the marriage muta, he made haram. Removing hayya ala khairil amal from the azan and iqamah, he removed that. He had no right to do these things. So as I was saying, the person, the wasi of the Holy Prophet, has to put aside all whims and desires. He's not allowed to put his own conjecture. But the second Caliph, very, very openly and very famously, he did these things. He changed the way that people stand in namaz, for example. We stand with arms down because that's the way the Holy Prophet prayed. He actually instituted the folded arms. So this was all his personal whim and fancy, not based on the Book of God, and definitely not based on the Sunnah of the Holy Prophet. Hence, let's summarize. There are 2 roles here. In Islam, we believe there are 2 primary roles for the successor of Prophet Muhammad. The first is that the Holy Prophet was a messenger appointed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And secondly, he was the leader of the people and he was the head of state. These were the 2 fundamental roles of the Prophet. He was a messenger of God, in touch with Allah, communication with Allah, revelation from Allah, guided by Allah, sinless by Allah, made sinless by Allah, cleaned of every kind of impurity. And he was the leader and head of the state. And he had authority over every single person. We, the Shia, say the successors of the Holy Prophet need both of these things. They need to be in that position where they are appointed by Allah, in touch with Allah, in communication with Allah, receiving messages from Allah, receiving guidance from Allah, receiving the angels of Allah, and they will have all that the Holy Prophet had: complete knowledge, sinlessness, and they would be head of state as well. Well, that is their right. Whether people recognize them or not, or give it to them or not, is a secondary thing, but that is their right and their role. However, Sunnis, unfortunately, they have sufficed with Hasbuna Kitabullah. The Book of God is enough for us. We don't need to delve into the Seerah and the Sunnah of the Holy Prophet. We don't need to go there. It's staggering that they even call themselves Sunnis after the Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad, when they say themselves that Hasbuna Kitabullah, the Book of God is enough for us. No, we say that it is a role of the Imam that he must have complete knowledge of these things. So they completely disregard the first point. They say the successor of the Holy Prophet does not need to be in touch with God, doesn't need to be some kind of divine person, doesn't need to be guided by God, doesn't need to receive Jibreel and the other angels. No, they don't look at that at all. They just say he needs to be a competent person as a head of state. So in the second point, they excuse the caliphs from tampering with the religion. They kind of overlook this point. Umar, as I said, he says, I have made, this I is very important. I have made three things haram, which were halal during the time of the Prophet. Who? He's attributing it to himself. I have made, this is my decision. These are my whims and desires. This is what I think. I like the look of this kind of namaz where you fold your arms. I don't like the arms down. It's my decision. So he says three things that were haram during the time of the Prophet, I have made them. Three things that were halal during the time of the Prophet, I have made them haram. And anyone who does them, I will punish them. Number one, the muta of hajj. Number two, the muta of marriage. And number three, hayya ala khairil amal in the adhan. This is in direct conflict with the sunnah of the Holy Prophet. We say a successor of the Holy Prophet can never do this. They say, ignore that first part. As long as he's a head of state, this is enough for us. Look at this incident from history. Someone comes to Abdullah ibn Umar. This is the son of the second caliph. And he asks him, what do you say about the muta of hajj? What is your opinion? He says, I say it is halal. They then said to him, but your father himself told us and forbade us from this. He told us not to do this. He replied the following. He said, according to your view, is the command of my father more important, or the deeds and the sunnah of the Holy Prophet? Which is more important? They said, of course, the sunnah and the deeds and the actions of the Holy Prophet are more important. So then he replied, in that case, know this, that the Holy Prophet acted on this and he did perform the muta of hajj. In other words, my father has done things of his own accord. He has done things of his own whims and fancies and desires. This is not based on the lifestyle and sunnah of the Holy Prophet. So we have now two ways of choosing the successor of the Holy Prophet. We say it must be chosen by God. We say that not even the Holy Prophet is allowed to choose. Of course, he does everything according to the order of Allah. They say the people can choose. Even though last week we had established that even this is flawed, that even if you say the people can choose, well, you have three different ways of choosing your three different caliphs. One was chosen by a select number of people who had left the body of the Prophet without burying him, went to Saqifa, plotted, schemed, and then came up with Abu Bakr as the first caliph. Abu Bakr was on his deathbed, he named Umar as his successor. So that wasn't the people at all, that was just one caliph naming another caliph. Umar, when he was dying, he said there should be 6 people, a committee should be headed up, and they should choose the next person. So even that is flawed, but okay. They say it should be chosen by people. We say no, this choice is only and only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we believe the successor of the Prophet should be chosen by Allah. We believe that the successor of Prophet Muhammad has to have the following 2 qualities. Number 1, he should have the same kind of spiritual purity and power as Prophet Muhammad. What does this mean? It means that they should know the unseen, the ghaib. They should be in contact with the higher realms, in communication with Allah, receiving the messages of God, receiving the communication of God, the guidance from God. The only difference here is there are 2 types of wahi. We've discussed this before in these sessions. One is wahy tashri'i, which is for the Holy Prophet. He received wahy tashri'i. In other words, he received the revelation for all of the new things in Islam. All the Islamic injunctions, all the Islamic rules, all the verses of the Qur'an were given to the Holy Prophet as legislation. Implement this. This is now wajib. This is now wajib. This is now wajib. This is haram. Don't do this. Stop that. That is wahy tashri'i. Imams received wahi, but we don't call it wahy tashri'i because there are no new laws and no new verses. They received wahy tabiini. In other words, the wahi which explained all the teachings of the Holy Prophet, which explain the Holy Quran. That is tabiyin, that is explanation, elucidation, clarification. It explains the details, the new circumstances, and explains this to the people. The way a prophet cannot be voted in, he has to be selected by God. We say a successor also cannot be voted in, and he has to be selected by Allah, because he has to be in communication with Allah. He has to be in touch with the higher realms. And number two, we will say this: someone who does not follow this is not on the right path. There is only one Sirat-e Mustaqim, and that is the path of Ali alayhi salam. It is not for people to decide who should have this appointment as the representative of God. It is not for the people to decide that who should be the Imam and who should be the Prophet. The same way, if we say, and all Muslims will agree with this, if Allah and only Allah chooses the Prophet, then it's only Allah also who chooses the successor of the Prophet. Look at this verse from the Holy Quran, 43:31. وَقَالُوا لَوْلَا نُزِّلَ هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ عَلَى رَجُلٍ مِّنَ الْقَرْيَتَيْنِ عَظِيمٍ. They say, this is the Mushrikeen, these are the opponents of the Holy Prophet. What did they say? They said, this man, Muhammad ibn Abdullah, how can he be the Prophet? They say, why was not this Quran sent down to some great man from the two cities? Who is this person? We don't know him. He's not famous. He's not powerful. He's not rich. He's not one of the elites of society. How can the Quran come to him? No, no, no. We would rather it go to someone else. We think it should go to Fulan or Fulan or Fulan, such and such, such and such. We don't agree that this man should be the Prophet. They had an issue that Allah chose the Holy Prophet as his Prophet. They could not understand that prophethood is a matter of Allah to decide. It does not matter about external factors. It does not matter which family you're from, where you're from, which town you're from, how rich you are, how famous you are, how you dress, how you look. These things don't matter. Allah will decide who should be the prophet. Now we come on to Amirul Mu'mineen. Amirul Mu'mineen, today you ask any person from another sect, they'll tell you, oh, Ali was not chosen because he was too young. He was not experienced. He had killed a lot of people in the battles. So people would not submit to him because they would remember, oh, he's killed my brother and my uncle and my father. This is not your call to make, we will say. This is not for you to decide. This is not for you to worry about. Leave it to God. Allah knows. The same way he appointed an orphan, simple lifestyle person called Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, the same way he will appoint Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam. The same way he took care of his prophet, he will take care of the wasi of his prophet. So, as the Mushrikeen did not understand the reality and secret of prophethood, these other sects of Islam, unfortunately, do not understand the reality and secret of Imamate. If the heart of the Prophet was the place where Jibreel descended, then the heart of Ali alayhi salam is also the place for Jibreel to descend and the other angels of Allah to descend. This is why again and again we see that the Holy Prophet would emphasize that my Ahlul Bayt are equal to the Quran. They will always be together. You will never be able to separate them. These two have to go together. So why did he do this? So that he removes from the minds of the people that this is just a political position. He actually made it a condition that the Quran and this position have to go hand in hand. They come together. There is no just political leadership that we believe in for our Imams at all. Look at this hadith, which is from the research of Ayatollah Ziya Abadi. Someone comes to Imam Rada alayhi salam. Imam Rada alayhi salam says to him, Ya Abdul Aziz, his name was Abdul Aziz. Oh Abdul Aziz, the people are ignorant and they have been fooled in the matter of their religion. Then he explains, Inna Allah Azza wa Jalla lam yaqbid nabiyahu hatta akmala dina. He says, Imam Rada says, that Allah did not take his prophet's soul until he had completed his religion. In other words, the Holy Prophet only left this world, he only died once the religion was complete. And then he quoted the famous verse, Al-Yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum, that today I have perfected for you your religion. فَمَنْ زَعَمَ أَنَّ اللَّهَ لَمْ يُكْمِلْ دِينَهُ, whoever is of the opinion that God did not complete his religion, فَقَدْ رَدَّ كِتَابَ اللَّهِ, he has rejected the book of God. So, وَمَنْ رَدَّ كِتَابَ اللَّهِ فَقَدْ كَفَرَ, and whoever rejects the book of God, he has indeed become a disbeliever, he has indeed entered kufr. So here what we say is, Allah did perfect the religion with the wilayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen. He did perfect the religion with the successorship of the Aimma alayhimus salam. He did not leave this religion just unfinished, incomplete, and left it to the people. No, that is not the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ayatollah Zia Abadi then goes on to a lot of nice points that, look, we have to bear in mind that in this day and age, when we are without our Imam in front of us, Imam is in a ghaibat, of course he's here, he's in the world, he's the Hujjat of Allah, but he's not in front of us, we don't have access to him, then of course in these times we must refer to our ulama. And he stresses this again and again, that when you choose a person from amongst the ulama to refer to, and to believe in, and to have as your leader, and to guide you in matters of religion, then you must adhere to the advice of the Aimma alayhimus salam. And he quotes here where Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, Man kana min al-fuqaha sa'inan li nafsihi hafidan li dinihi. That famous tradition that from amongst the scholars, whoever is careful about his own soul, looks after his religious personality and his religion, mukhalifan li hawahu, who opposes his base desires, muti'an li amri mawlahu, who obeys his Lord in everything, falil awam an yuqallidu. So then it is upon the people to do his taqleed. People say, what is this taqleed that you guys have come up with? Is it something that you have made up? No, not at all. This is from the seerah of Aimma alayhimus salam, and this is one of the ahadith regarding taqleed. I think we'll stop here. He does go into really, really nice points about the ulama, but I think this session is now gone long enough. So we'll leave that for now, inshallah. This is a very good question. Why is Ayatollah Khamenei called Wilayat Faqih? No, he's called Wali Faqih. The system is called Wilayat Faqih. If this title is given by Masumin, Zafar, this is a very long question. I don't think we have time right now, but in very, very short, to answer your question, all fuqaha have wilayat. That means authority. All fuqaha, all Shia jurists, if they are qualified at that level, at the highest level, they have authority over us. They have authority in many, many things. They have authority in disputes. They have authority in divorce. They have authority in things like ownership. They have authority in, for example, when we're not sure who is the owner of something. Many, many things they have authority over us. Ayatollah Khamenei, being in a unique position as the head of a state, he is known by the title Wali Faqih. In other words, the Faqih who is recognized in charge of this country, of this state. That is the short answer to your question. But this is a very, very interesting and long discussion about Wilayat Faqih, and the scope of it and the history of it and how we get to this conclusion. Inshallah, on another occasion we can discuss this. Please can you provide the reference for the hadith on taqleed? Yes, inshallah. Ihtijaj Tabarsi, Jild number 2, page number 263. I don't know how much that will come in handy for you. Can you access this book of Ihtijaj of Tabarsi? But we have many, many discussions on this. Inshallah, maybe one day we can have a separate discussion on taqleed, the history of taqleed, the development of taqleed, the authority, the concept of authority in Shia Islam, how we've got to this position today. You'll find it very, very fascinating. And really all of these doubts will, inshallah, disappear. Yeah, also, another question is the reference for the second caliph changing the method of salat. Yes, so look, you know, all of these things are there. I'm not going to give you every single reference right now, but I'll just give you an overall reference. If you look at the books of Muhammad Tijani Samawi. These are the famous 3 or 4 books that he's written. Then I Was Guided and the other ones in that series. They have every single thing in there in a very nice way. It's been translated in a very nice way, written in very good English, very simple, easy to read. You'll find it fascinating, and all of the different references are explained fully in there, inshallah. You'll be able to see that. Then I Was Guided, and the other books in that series by Muhammad Tijani Samawi. Yeah. Umar Mahdi, maybe you can circulate a link for those who are interested. I'm sure it must be online somewhere. alislam.org. I'd be surprised if Al-Islam doesn't have it.
It does.
Yeah, it does, right?
Then I Was Guided. All of Sheikh Samawi's books are on Al-Islam, and I would say everybody should read all of them. They're amazing.
Yeah,
There's also a book called What is Taqlid by Sheikh Salim Bimji on Al-Islam, which has the hadith for Taqlid.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. So that was our discussion over 2 parts regarding this great line from Ziyarat Jamia, وَأُوصِيَا نَبِيِّ اللَّهِ. And from next session, inshallah, we will start with ذُرِّيَّةِ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.